you would have told us beforehand that, hey, we're an 8-win team and our main quarterback didn't play for a majority of the season, is hopefully going to end up getting a medical red shirt, I think everyone would have sold out for that. I think Jason Bean did a great job of stepping in when adversity called, and obviously that's a compliment to Coach Leipold and the rest of his staff and the players there.
Dad used to tell me all the time. Son, don't worry about the mules, just load the wagon.
What's up, everybody? If you are a college football fan like me, if you know a college football fan that's in your life, you need to go cop this shirt. New designs dropping all the time. It's the perfect gift with the holiday season coming around. If you don't have this thing, you're missing out. Great material, great fabric. I wear it all the time. Go get yours today.
What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of Rock Chalk Unplugged. I'm your host, Mitch Lightfoot, here with my best friend and co-host, Chris Teahan. Excited to talk some KU football, KU basketball. Chris, what do you got for us?
Hey, let's just start off on the football front. I mean, we finished our season last Saturday on a very, very high note. Mitch, what is your overall outlook on the season? Was it a disappointment? Were you expecting 10 wins and a natty bid? Were you expecting us to go 500? Kind of, what is your takeaway from this season?
I think you look at this game or this season, and if you would have told us beforehand that, hey, we're an 8-win team and our main quarterback didn't play for a majority of the season, is hopefully going to end up getting a medical red shirt, I think everyone would have sold out for that. I think Jason Bean did a great job of stepping in when adversity called, and obviously that's a compliment to Coach Leipold and the rest of his staff and the players there. So I think, the Jayhawk Nation would have sold out for 8 wins with our essential backup QB. Pretty excited about that. Chris, do you think that the fact that we're headed into our bowl game and a lot of big-name players on our team have not entered the transfer portal means something?
I think it speaks a ton to our culture. I think that the players, the players, team, coaching staff, equipment managers, everybody is bought into this program and what Lance is doing. Granted, we did have some transfers, not anybody that you would really watch on Saturday and be like, okay, dang, that's a big loss. So I think it really speaks to our culture, and everyone's going to be playing in that bowl game. I love the way we're trending, but it also shows that, hey, there's other teams in the Big 12 that lost some very, very key contributors.
I think you look at that, and that just goes to say, like you said, against their culture. I mean, there's teams that have big name guys that are up and entering the transfer portal. Like you said, it's a day and age of NIL where, hey, where can I go make the most money? And that's not supposed to be how it works, but unfortunately, that is the nature of the beast. And I'm really excited to see how KU football holds up against this. Obviously, there's a lot of good buzz going on around KU football with the stadium renovations, Coach Leipold.
And, hey, we talk about Jalen Daniels a ton, and he was a guy with a bunch of preseason hype. The very small look that we got into him was fantastic. I mean, he played great against Illinois. It was fun football. But you really look at Jason Bean, 8-4, and he played great. He's up there in the top 5 conversation of best Kansas quarterbacks of all time. And granted, hey, of all time, there's no doubt about it. He was fun to watch. He made big plays when it mattered. He got our biggest win in the last decade, for real. If you look at the Oklahoma game at home,
Oklahoma,
and then I do see some fans and some other people. Which, hey, granted, I can't agree to that. We should be a 10-win team. We had 2 games come down to 1 possession that were easily winnable. I mean, the K-State game, I wouldn't say easily winnable, but like there's a couple of mistakes in there in the end of the game, and then the Texas Tech game. But I mean, you walk away from the season 8-4. It blows my expectations out of the water. We have the most Big 12 wins. We have more Big 12 wins, I think, this year, the last 2 years combined, the last decade. So this season, the players, Jason Bean, they all stepped up to the occasion and made sure that the hype that we all talked all offseason really lived up to it. And, I mean, it was one of those things where we talk a lot of smack. We do. We thought we were going to be great, and they helped us out a lot by backing it up and being a winning and entertaining football team to watch.
Chris, for the bowl game, I hope we go play in the Pop-Tart Bowl this is our official appeal to the people over at Pop-Tart, the scouts from the Pop-Tart Bowl. Let us play. I think we've got the viewership. KU and Jayhawk Nation always show up. We've got the talent. We've got explosive players that can make highlight plays that are going to get you more viewership. And Chris and I won it. So hopefully you guys will allow us to play in that. Tweet this. Everybody at them, at Pop-Tart. Let's play in the Pop-Tart Bowl, baby.
Hey, and I heard that they're having the first ever edible mascot.
Appreciate it, Mitch and Chris. Before we get back to Rock Chalk, I got to tell you guys about the best way to make money on sports. I've been in search of the best way to fire on sports for the last year or so. I've tried every sports book, all the different apps, but PrizePicks is the best way to make money on sports. On PrizePicks, you pick players and not teams. Each player has a set total stat projection. So let's say Patrick Mahomes has a higher or lower than 220 passing yards. If you think he's going to have more, you just click on more. When it hits, you make a bunch of money. I just hit a 4-player pick'em last night, 10x in my money, $100 to win $1,000. And the best part is you can go to prizepicks.com/rockchalk and use the code ROCKCHALK for a 100% deposit match up to $100. That's prizepicks.com/rockchalk. Use the promo code ROCKCHALK for a 100% deposit match up to $100. Who knows what you can turn that $100 into? I turned mine into $1,000 last night. Let me know what you do in the comments.
What?
Yes, I don't know. Hey, that's the only thing I know is that I've heard, and maybe it's completely false, but they're having an edible mascot. So after the game, Jason Bean go take the corner piece off. He'll probably want a little bit more of the filling on the inside. You know, Pop-Tarts, they're breaded on the outside. But the filling on the 100%. Inside, get some of that. And, I mean, after a big win, that would be absolutely ridiculous. And last year, I think we had a 750-person tailgate at our bowl game at the Liberty Bowl. Think about this
unreal.
Year.
Unreal. Like, we're going to travel even better. You heard it here first. Edible mascots after the game. Chris is excited about that. Hopefully that'll be the case. Chris, let's move on now to a little bit of basketball. Obviously, we're coming off the Hawaii trip. Overall, what was your takeaway from that? Successful, leaving more to be wanted? What did you think?
I mean, I think I'm in between on those. I don't think it's successful because obviously we didn't win the championship. I mean, as a Kansas fan, as a former Kansas player, knowing the ins and outs of Kansas and what's expected, you want to win. You want to go undefeated. You want to go beat the number 2 team in the country in the championship. But with that being said, it's not a disappointment. I mean, we still that was the best grouping I've seen out of the Maui tournament. Correct. I mean, they're all like we had.
100%. Like, it blew the crowd out of the water from when we played in it. Obviously, I think there was a lot of things that went into that tournament. The fact that you get to play against a number 7 seed in your second game after you've lost your first one and get to prove it back to yourself, like, hey, we're going to get a top 10 win in our consolation bracket, which is unbelievable. Go out there and play really well against a Tennessee team who notoriously has had our number over the years. Mm-hmm. We've gone and played in Knoxville and got the brakes blown off us. So I think it's awesome to see us bounce back. People were a little questionable about the game against Eastern Illinois. I think that the guys on the team, obviously, it's one of those games. This is just in my perspective. It's one of those games where you overlook it, look into the next one, and you always try not to, but at the same point in time, getting hyped up to play Eastern Illinois or getting hyped up to play the defending national champion UConn, like that there is something to be spoke to about that. I think that the guys on the team we got past that one, we won, and we handled business. You got to win 70% of the games you play bad in, and we were able to win that game. And at the end of the day, whenever you look at the record at the end of the year, it's wins and losses. It's not came off of a Maui trip and played bad and only won by 12. No, it's a win. So I think I'm excited to see how we are headed into this UConn game.
And I mean, going back to Maui a little bit, the top 10 matchup in the second round, it wasn't an underdog beat before. I mean, the championship game is still a top 10 matchup. So it is something where, hey, it was a competitive thing. And then go into the Eastern Illinois game. I was there at the game, and it was flat. I mean, the players, the fans, everybody was flat. It was kind of one of the – I mean, it's a trap game, as much as you can say. I mean, literally by definition, a trap game. You get out of Maui playing 2 top 10 teams to finish it out, and then you go play Eastern Illinois before you go play the defending national champions, also a top 5 team, UConn. That's a game you're not really getting up for. It's like, hey, this is just another tune-up game. But it is something, and you can stop me if I'm wrong, that you look back on these wins when you get into February, when you get into the dog days of the Big 12, when, hey, you're going to go play Oklahoma State. They haven't had a great season this year. The fans are kind of dead. Can you get up for this game, and can you win a grindy, we played like butt, they played like butt kind of game? And I think tonight, or on Tuesday night, they proved that. And my outlook for the rest of the season is positive. We're getting all of our growing pains out right now. I mean, obviously you want to see less of them. You want to see us blow every single team out and be just the number 1 team in the country all year. But I think it speaks to a lot of how much that those games do matter and how much that shows that, hey, we still are a competitive team that will do anything to win regardless of what happens in the first 36 minutes of the game.
Chris, I've seen a lot of stuff on social media talking about, hey, we need our bench to produce, and we need our shooting. Where do you think that's going to come from? And do you think that we still have the ability to develop some bench scoring and some shooting from the bench?
I mean, you really look at it, it's the people we're watching. You watch Furphy. He has his confidence at moments. And when he has his confidence, I mean, he has a beautiful shot. He's one of those guys you sit there and watch shoot, and you're like, that guy's good at shooting. Nick Timberlake's another one of those guys. Those are 2 guys that just haven't developed the confidence yet to really figure out where their spots are. Hey, if I miss 2, do I shoot the 3rd one? And I think right now their answer on the 3rd one is no. But in reality, that's what we need to do. El Marco, he's still coming along. There's obviously a lot of hype going in. There's also a lot of pressure. You guys are putting on an 18-year-old kid. And I'm saying you guys is meaning everybody in the fan base, everybody who's on the athletic department, everybody on ESPN. They're putting a lot of pressure on an 18-year-old kid who, hey, he was a 5-star recruit, projected lottery pick, but he hasn't shown it yet. Mm-hmm. It's way too early to count him out. The one person I've been very surprised at, which I wouldn't doubt they get more minutes while still trying to rotate in Nick and Johnny and El Marco, is Jamari. He wants to play basketball.
He does exactly what Coach Self wants. It's literally the craziest thing in the world. Like, he's going to play a lot of minutes because he's doing what Coach Self wants. He's rebounding. He's playing defense. He's getting other guys opportunities. He's getting you extra possessions. I was really impressed in the Tennessee game. I thought he went out there and he was quite honestly the reason we pulled away in that game. I think he has a lot of the intangibles that Coach Self looks for, and that's something that I think the other freshmen on this team can take away from. If we can get them all playing at that level, then I think we'll have a serious chance to really do some damage in the Big 12 and hopefully on into March.
And man, with Jamari, you live with the mistakes, though, on offense. Obviously, he turns the ball over a little too much. He makes some boneheaded mistakes. But then you watch him get back-to-back offensive rebounds with 12 minutes left in the first half, or like 8 minutes left in the first half of a game against Eastern Illinois. And you see him running to the bench, flexing, yelling. That's what you want to see. That's an energy bringer. He brings energy when he's on the court. He values his minutes. I think that he's going to be a good role model. I wouldn't say role model because they're all the same age and all very young in their tenure at Kansas, but it's something that you watch those other bench guys, they watch the way he plays. They're going to start to take notice, being like, hey, if I want to get on the court, I got to start doing those small things. And then the rest of the game comes to him. Well, Mitch, so we skipped over the Marquette loss when we were talking about Maui. I don't want to keep that completely out of the window. We really got our ass kicked for 40 minutes. But walking away from that game, what were kind of your key takeaways? Why did it go like that? What was really what led up to the outcome of us just getting bossed around?
First off, I think you got to talk about, obviously, Shaka Smart has been somebody that's always had his teams hyped up to play against Kansas. That dates back to his VCU days. That dates back to his Texas days. When he got to Texas, talking about, it worked for us a couple years ago at VCU, like that, stuff like that. I mean, even in the game in Maui, where he goes after our coaches because he didn't like something. Like, dude, like, we're here to coach basketball and play basketball. We're not here to get into a bickering match between two grown men. I think that was something that I thought was uncalled for. But besides that, on the court, I think they were long, they were athletic, they gave us problems. They were able to key in on the fact that Hunter was the main focus point for us, which he obviously is. You have to think about it. We need to get production out of places other than Hunter in games where they're going to pack it in on them. So I think that's even more important for us to find where our shooting is going to come from, whether that be DeJuan being more aggressive. Obviously, Kevin McCullough's doing a great job of taking some of that weight off of Hunter. KJ doing what KJ does. But I think that real question mark comes from, hey, can guys like Johnny Furphy, can guys like Nick Timberlake come into the game, spread the floor, make the defense not be able to collapse as much as they are? Chris, what were your takeaways?
So I'll say about the Shaka Smart team at Marquette. He wanted to do what he was doing at VCU at Texas, and it just wasn't happening. The way that Texas works, they have a bunch of big guys. Don't get me wrong, they're athletic, but they just aren't as grimy as his teams at VCU were. They wanted to speed you up. If they didn't speed you up,
grimy in a good way. First of all, grimy in a
great way.
Get in your business on defense.
Yeah. Ultra competitive. Just want to win more than you want to win. Hey, we're going to play our style of game. Stop us from playing that kind of game. And yeah, grimy in that matter. And I think this Marquette team was a lot more like the VCU teams than they were the Texas teams. They wanted to speed us up. They have 2 point guards. I mean, 22 is literally lightning in a bottle. Reminded me a lot of Remy Martin with also some top end speed, which it was very hard for us to guard. I think that we got into the game. We got our couple quick baskets at the beginning. Thought it was going to be smooth, and then they sped us up immediately after, and we played sped up the whole game. DeJuan, it was the first time in a very long time I watched him look like he felt uncomfortable bringing the ball up the court, which is very uncharacteristic for him. And I think also we've been saying it before. Hey, where do we need to step up? We can't have Hunter drop on ball screens if our guards aren't going to get over the ball screens. They were letting those little point guards sit there, high ball they were running a bunch of actions. They were running Iverson cuts. They were running roll replace. They were running fade screens off of pops. I mean, a very complex offense, but it really comes down to, hey, are you letting those point guards get their feet in the paint? And every time they had the opportunity to, they were. And they passed so well out of it that we don't really have great rim protection because when Hunter's behind, he doesn't have the quickness to get back up to him. But at the same time, I mean, and so that was just kind of what I saw defensively that put us in a rut. And then offensively, Hunter is fantastic. I mean, I can't remember a time. I've watched Kansas basketball for 23 years of my life. I'm 24 years old. Obviously don't remember the first year of my life. But he is the most skilled offensively big man that we've had, combined with size. So you have to live with what he does on the defense. I think it's on the guards more than it is the big to get over those ball screens because you have to have Hunter on the court. So, hey, you're going to have to live with that. He's not going to get any faster than he is. And he's 7'2". You give that away. But offensively, we try to get it to him all the time. But when it's not working, what are our plays off of that? Juan being hesitant. You saw in the Eastern Illinois game too. Hey, we would get the ball out of the top, and Juan would probably have a slot drive right there, but he's looking to get the ball into Hunter. Slot drives create help. Help creates open shots. Helps creates playing behind it. So if you have the guy from the corner helping off, you're going to throw it to the corner. Even if the guy at the wing comes down and helps, they can shot fake, play one dribble, and then play off that. That requires the defense to scramble. It requires them to get tired, sloppier offense. I feel like a lot of the time we're very stagnant. And so teams that speed us up who also have endurance just kind of control the game. And that's what I felt with the Marquette game as a total. I'll comment a little bit on the Shaka Smart stuff. That is the most unprofessional thing I have ever seen on a basketball court. Call me a hater if you want. You can deny it. When is the last time you ever seen somebody go after a coaching staff, a player like that, being held backwards, all one-sided? You watch Coach Self when the referee brings them together. The referee's like, hey, are we good? Are we good? Are we doing this? And then you see Shaka say something, and you see Coach Self just be like literally, what is he doing? Like, you guys were talking to me about it. I think he's very unprofessional. When we were in the Big 12, not many people liked him in general. When the coaches would get together, they're very cordial with each other. And Shaka was always the outsider of the group. No one really wanted to talk to him. Everyone enjoyed beating Texas. I don't know if it's just the Texas brand, but I also think it's the way he carried himself. It makes for a great basketball team. They feel like they're underdogs no matter what they're playing at. But as a person and as an action, I did not appreciate that. I did not think it was very professional of a Power 5 high major basketball coach.
I think it even goes to show, like when they pull him back to his huddle, and he's still saying things to our huddle, which
Unreal.
is 50 feet away. Like dude, it's move on. Even if something did offend you, like let's continue to play basketball and not be caught up in the bickering. I think that was, like you said, uncalled for, and quite honestly, I think it was a little immature.
I mean, when's the last time we saw a player do that? Where they're bringing him back to the bench and he's still chirping at the other team. And like, you rarely ever see a player do that. The fact that
much less a head coach, like
a head coach who's an experienced head coach. He's not a Bobby Knight. He's not a tyrant or a Tom Izzo where you're just kind of like, okay, it's the passion of the game. He's not that kind of guy. It came
off more like complaining, like whining to me than it did like the passion of the game.
Yeah.
Like I thought it was more whiny than it was aggressive.
Yeah, I agree with that. And the whininess is like, that's what you don't want. I don't know. It was definitely something where I was watching and I was like, I can't wait to kick their ass after this. And then obviously the game didn't change very much. Very, very frustrating. I understand all of what's been going on Twitter, what's been going on Instagram, on the message boards. It was a frustrating loss. It's something that you sit there and like you're fuming over it, knowing you have nothing to do with anything, and our players aren't really contributing anyways. But let's move on from that. Mitch, I know you posted on Instagram the other day for some fan questions. Let's dive into the best ones that kind of relate to what we've been saying. I think everyone's pretty much on the same page on a lot of things. Obviously, some overreactions, but shoot those over.
This is from Erica. She says, we need a Townsend Timberlake to emerge. What do you think, Chris?
I agree. I agree wholeheartedly. I don't think he has the confidence he had at Townsend, but if we're also going to look at how he played at Townsend, there's not an opportunity in this offense for him to do that. Does he have an opportunity to be more aggressive on the offensive end and not second-guess his shots? Yes, 1,000%. Mm-hmm. He kicked one in against Eastern Illinois. And that one he shot with confidence. He had that little 30-second stretch. But defensively, too, I think we're always worried about the offensive side of the game. And I think that Nick needs to get comfortable on defense. And when he gets comfortable on defense, makes those plays, then the game starts to come to you. That sounds like coaches talk, but, I mean, how many times have you heard that, Mitch?
No, 100%. I was agreeing with you the entire time. I think that when you're at Townsend, you're not playing against the same caliber of opponents. You're going to be going against way more athletic guys here in the Big 12. Obviously, we played against guys at Marquette that were not going to let you be comfortable whatsoever. No. Even Tennessee. I'll be interested to see how he does tonight. Or this will be coming out on Friday. So tonight against UConn, they're long, they're athletic, similar to Marquette. If we can have one of either the freshman or Nick step up, make a couple of shots, give us some confidence, I think that'll do numbers for us as a team, and that'll definitely give us a chance to play our best.
And I don't want anybody to write off Nick or Johnny or any of those guys, because there will be a game this year that Nick Timberlake single-handedly puts us on our back in the last 5 minutes. Single-handedly put us on our back in a moment that we needed. Like, give us momentum, put us on a run. These are things that, hey, yeah, you want them to be perfect all the time. It's not. We're human. They were human beings. It's a ton of stress coming to a university like this with a ton of expectations to start the year. So it is something that, hey, let him come into his figure. Have trust in the system. If we are a 4-loss team a month and a half into Big 12 play, then everyone can yell the sky is falling. Me and Mitch will yell the sky is falling. But this all right here doesn't really mean much. It's more about figuring out, hey, what can he do? What is he comfortable doing? Where can he find his niche in the offense? I don't think he's figured that out yet. There's not been enough games, but it will come along. I have full confidence in the roster. I don't think much will change regarding playing time situations and things like that.
Chris, this next one comes from Alec. It says, it's November and the season doesn't matter until the beginning of February with Coach Self. Do you agree, disagree? What are your thoughts on that?
I actually voted on that, and I agree with it to an extent. Because obviously you don't want to start out slow. You don't want to be losing these games in November. You don't want to have them be blowouts. You learn something from each game that you have. Like I alluded to when we were talking about Eastern Illinois. That's a grinded out game where everyone's flat. The other team obviously doesn't have the talent we do, but guess what? They wanted to play in Allen Fieldhouse. They loved playing in Allen Fieldhouse. It's a big deal. They played against Kansas. So it is one of those things where, like, hey, you get a lesson out of each and every one of these things. We will be fine when it comes to Selection Sunday. So if we drop a couple of these games, it's no big deal as long as we're learning something throughout the process and gathering little pieces to become better.
Next one comes from Corbin Jones. Our bench has to develop for us to go far in March. Obviously, I think we talked about that already. The bench, we have to have something from them, whether it be they all start to play like Jamari, where their energy, they're maybe a little hectic, but they're gonna give you the extra energy that you need to be a jump start, or they're gonna have to knock down shots. I think that we talked about that enough that we can jump on to the next one.
What I want to say is I didn't allude to it earlier, and I was thinking about it early on. It's like our Tennessee game, we can be two types of teams. We can be a team that scores a lot and plays high-scoring games, where it's like we have to outscore the other team. Or we can be a team that wins every game 67-60, where it's just like we grind it out, we play great defense, we get our 2 points, we don't miss opportunities around the rim, we get on our little runs. So I think there's two options of what kind of team we want to be. You obviously want to watch a team that scores a ton and blows every team out of the water. We also can be a team like 2020. Everyone forgets that we weren't the best scoring team. We just didn't let people score. And if you let teams score 55 points a game, we can figure out a way to score.
Bright future. Coach Self will clean up the turnovers and we'll be ready come tourney time. Interesting. This one talks about turnovers, Chris. What do we do in practice when it comes to turnovers? How does Coach Self limit those? What are we working on in practice?
I mean, just pressure. Like you play. I'll give an example about West Virginia. I think we've alluded to it multiple times over our podcast series. But, hey, we're turning the ball over. Guess what? We're going to run half-court sets today, and there's going to be 6 defenders on there. And we're all going to be pressuring. We're all going to be sitting there trying to steal passes, run through passing lanes, not care if they score, but mostly about pressure. So they will fix that. They will figure it out. And I think also if you look at most of our turnovers, especially against Marquette, they were things that were just boneheaded mistakes. They weren't things that are like, hey, we're really sped up. We're really sped up, and people are just throwing the ball everywhere. We're not making good decisions. It was just, hey, we dribbled the ball off our foot. We ran a play where Hunter posted for a second, and we decided to throw it at 2 seconds, and he was already going the other way. There were a lot of things that I don't think they're correctable mistakes in the sense of a practice term. I think they're correctable at the players looking themselves in the eye and being like, okay, maybe I need to be on the same page as my center, the guys running the plays with me. So I think it will be something that's through running these plays more and more, getting more reps, feeling more comfortable, just like a quarterback does with his receivers. They're going to run that back shoulder fade 1,000 times in the offseason to know exactly where he wants it, how fast does he run, how does he catch it better. So I think it's something that will be negated through repetition, as well as simulating pressure against teams that we're obviously going to see pressure against.
The one thing I remember from Coach Self about turnovers in practice and trying to negate them in the game is he would have one of the coaches or manager sit there, and every time somebody turned it over, he would tally it for that person. At the end of practice, he would have them bring over the board and be like, all right, Chris had 11 turnovers, Mitch had 2 turnovers, bing, bada bing. And then he would make sure everyone understood that, hey, if you can't change it in practice, you're not going to change it in the game when the bright lights are on. So I think that that's something that, yes, we need to be a little concerned of. Like, hey, we need to tighten that up. Like you said, there's things that we're making boneheaded plays. But at the same point in time, Coach Self is making them very aware of how valuable each possession is. And if we cannot turn the ball over, especially live ball turnovers, then that'll give us a chance against UConn tonight.
Hey, the only thing I'll say about that is, why did I have to have 11 turnovers and you have 2?
Chris, you always turn the ball over.
No, that is such a lie. You turn the ball over. He had slippery butterfingers.
No, mine always were shots. They hit the rim.
Okay, yeah, terrible shots. Whatever. Go on to the next question.
This is an interesting one. More of a off-season question. How long after the season ends do you take to yourself before you hop back onto things and get back in shape? And what are some of the things you like to do in that period? I'm going to twist that one a little bit to what we're doing in the offseason when we're at KU and what these guys went through in the offseason. Off-seasons are pretty much, I would say you're spending your entire summer with the exception of 2 weeks
Yep.
in Lawrence. You're training sometimes 3 times a day. Majority of the times, once lift, once shooting, once practice. I think that all these guys, they're excited that they're not in the off season anymore because it can become a grind when you're beating up on each other the entire time. Some of the things that I remember being the most fun is these early season games because you get to play against people that aren't your friends and aren't the guys on your team because it gets annoying beating up on the people that you have to go to war with when January and December are here.
Yeah, so off season, I mean, it's really just a week off. We were still in school. During that time, you know what? A majority of the guys actually go to the rec and play pickup basketball. I mean, our lives, their lives, the team's lives revolve around basketball. So as much as they don't want to go through 3.5-hour practices, maybe to keep care of their legs, they'll go play pickup, they'll go work out, they'll go get shots up. So it's not really much of an off season. It's more of a practice rest is what I would say. So yeah, that's just the grind though. That's what we always wanted to do. If you don't love the game of basketball, you don't go play at the University of Kansas. I can promise you that. It's a grind, and if you don't love it, you'll find out pretty damn quick that it's probably not for you if you go to a high major school like that where it lives and dies by the basketball team.
I think that some of the most fun I had at KU was the stacked rec teams we would put together. I remember after my freshman year, before you got there, it was like Frank Mason, Devontae Graham, Josh Jackson, like all on one team, like just absolutely torching the frat kids that had showed up to hoop. That was fun for everybody involved. I think we all enjoyed it. But yeah, no, off season is a short one, but at the same point in time, you go to Kansas because you love basketball and you want to be there hooping. So I think that everyone, whenever they were home, was always looking forward to getting back.
Yeah, and also the nice thing about the rec is that if I made a turnover, if I threw the ball out of bounds, if I tried to take it, dribble it 10 times, shoot a step back shot, I wasn't getting on a treadmill and getting my butt ripped for the next 20 minutes by Coach Self. So it is very nice to play basketball without stress sometimes. So I think that's kind of our getaway is, hey, we love basketball. It's nice to get away from the stress of being critiqued all the time.
This next one comes from Sarah. I wonder where the team's chemistry is. I see sparks, but not consistently. I'll speak to this one first. First off, I think you're right. I think that the chemistry is something that it develops in the off season, but the only true way to develop that chemistry is in season, going through these trials and tribulations. Obviously, you lose to Marquette pretty soundly, and that's going to be something that'll bring the team together. I think that it's something that's built through these tough times, and I think we're going to have an opportunity to develop in the non-conference, playing the strength of schedule that we do, that'll allow us to be cohesive once the Big 12 tournament, Big 12 season gets here.
And I think there's two types of chemistry. I think in the offseason you develop the camaraderie. I think that's a certain kind of chemistry where, hey, these guys are going to go out and battle for each other. They trust each other with their positions. They want them to. They're
all friends. Yeah,
they're all great friends. They're family. I mean, that's what you got to get in the offseason. And I also think that chemistry-wise on the court, we're figuring out. Just like I said, there's a lot of reps to be had. There's a lot of reps. Hey, where does Hunter want the ball in the post? Where does KJ the best from on the court? Where does Kevin want it on the wing? What gives him the best opportunity to score? And that, like you said, everybody on the team knows exactly that, so they're going to negate that when we're in practice. But in the game, it's something that, hey, we're going to have to figure that out. So I think it comes with playing. I think our chemistry is great. I don't think there's any inside risks that you should be worried about. Chemistry when we're playing on the offensive end of the floor and the defensive end of the floor definitely can be worked on, but this is the part of the season to work on it.
Chris, obviously tonight we have a huge game playing against UConn, defending national champions, playing against the national champions from 2 years ago. What are your keys headed into this game for us to win? Obviously UConn, they have 5 guys averaging more than 14.5 points a game, which is pretty impressive. You think about the consistency that takes. They can beat you from a lot of different areas. That's obviously why they're defending national champions. What do we need to do to give ourselves a chance to win this game and hopefully come out victorious.
We got to be turned up. We got to be turned up on the defensive end. I mean, you alluded to it. There's 14 points a game over 3 or 4 different players.
5
players. I mean, that's absolutely ridiculous. But then you also look, hey, what are they averaging a game scoring wise? So it means that they're really top heavy. You have to take the ball out of those guys' hands and make the guys who don't have the experience. They're obviously, those guys are getting the ball more. These other guys aren't. So you got to make them feel rushed and try to make them make mistakes and hopefully negate those guys to let only 2 of them score 15 points this game. So it's something there.
Do you think us playing against Marquette and already playing against a team that's super long, super athletic, and has the ability to speed you up will help us heading into this game?
Oh, I think it will for sure. I think we already got our first punch in the mouth. I mean, you never know what a team is until you see yourself bleed. You never know who you are as a man until you see yourself bleed. How do you respond from that first punch? I think we already felt it. I think we'll be more aware that, hey, let's not get sped up. They're a bunch of athletes, and that's the point of how they build their roster. They want a bunch of lanky guys that can sit there and score and physically impose on teams for 40 minutes. If you can match them, can you match them for all 40? I think that's something we can do. I think we have to sit there and really work on playing our own game and not playing the game they want us to. We said it about Marquette. We figured it out. I guarantee that's what Coach Self's saying in the locker room right now. I think that, and I think offensively, it's got to be something where, hey, they have a bunch of scores. They have a bunch of guys that are athletic. If we make a mistake on the offensive end, if we don't score 2 possessions in a row, that could be a 6-point swing. So I think it's something that you're going to have to see DeJuan get a little bit more aggressive. You're going to have to see Hunter be able to take off his spot on the block every once in a while. You're going to see KJ be more aggressive, get him the ball in the short roll situations. Marco's got to be great defensively, get out in transition, and when he's open, shoot those open shots. And Kevin's just been playing great. There's nothing I want to say about Kevin that he needs to do better. I just think that we need to sit there as a cohesive group and make sacrifices to make sure that these guys can play to the best of their abilities.
One of the beautiful things I think is that this is a home game. I think that the fans in Allen Fieldhouse, it gives us an extra 7 to 10 points a game of energy. They're the most unbelievable 6th man in all of the country. I think that, UConn has played in a national championship game. They won a national championship game, and there's energy at those games. But it's in a giant football stadium. You don't get quite the energy that you have in Allen Fieldhouse. It'll shake your bones, and it'll make our team better. I think we played in this wild atmosphere a couple different times, and I think it'll give us the ability to hopefully edge out UConn.
And there's a difference between playing in April and playing on December 1st. There's a huge difference. Can you get up for that game? And if you're not up for that game, the fans, the students have been camping out since Wednesday morning right after the Eastern Illinois game. They're going to be ready to go. That's all they think about. They sleep there. So they're going to have to be ready to play. And if they're not ready to play, regardless how we play, the fans are going to guide us to a win based off of their energy. So it's something, hey, are they going to come in thinking it's a national championship environment? Because that is what it's going to be. That's how the fans are going to sound. That's how the players are going to play. Can they match that? So, Mitch, we were just talking about the atmosphere that would be going on in Allen Fieldhouse for this game against UConn on Friday. We already saw on Wednesday the student camping lottery went absolutely viral for the rules, how long they camp out. They're there at 5 a.m. on Wednesday morning, right after an Eastern Carolina game with a great student show out. What does it mean to the program, and how hard is it on those students who sit there and camp for 3 to 4 days? I've never read the rules, and they just came out with them. They're pretty cutthroat.
First off, I think that there was a slight bit of confusion. The video that was shared across Barstool, that was at the very beginning check-in. When the lottery happens for the students, they get their number, and that is which group they're in, and this is how close they are to the court. And then once they get that number, to keep their spot, there has to be one student from that group in the field house at all points in time, headed up until game day. And any student can call roll call. And when they call roll call, every group of students has to have one person there to say, hey, yes, we're here. We can keep our spot in line. If you left to go to the bathroom or go get lunch, they're going to move you to the back of the line because you weren't there for roll call. It's a cutthroat game. We take our games extremely seriously. The fans, the students it's what sets us apart. It makes KU basketball and Allen Fieldhouse different. The passion that goes in there, I think it's truly one of a kind. And KU basketball camping is a unspoken tradition that I think more of the country and more of the nation needs to know about.
And many colleges do it. I just don't think they do it as well as we do it. You have legendary, the Mecca, Allen Fieldhouse, and then you have these students that sit there for days on end, working with their class schedules, working with their sleeping schedules to make sure someone is present. And Mitch, it's right outside of our locker room when we played at Kansas. They're all there. What is some of the more impressive things you've seen students do? Because I know, they really get creative in being like, hey, if I'm going to be here for 3-4 days, I better get comfortable. What are some of the coolest things?
100%. 100%. I think the things that I've seen that have been the craziest are they bring in blow-up mattresses and they have their tents. They're going to bring in small TVs with their Xboxes. They're having gaming tournaments going on. I think that's so cool whenever we're headed out between practices and we're getting to talk to the students that are there camping. It's so cool for me, just being a Jayhawk fan my entire life and knowing that those people care so much about this to camp out in Allen Fieldhouse. We often got the chance to bring them pizza, Chick-fil-A. I think that was so much fun, getting to bring them food and show them how much we care about them.
And I think it is something to be said. Like the culture around Kansas basketball, we know that Kansas basketball isn't what it is without those students who camp every week. So when we go out there and we bring them the pizza, we bring them the Chick-fil-A, they're a classmate. They're a classmate in a different area. They're whatever it is. We see them on the same view. We always sit down and have conversations. It's a lot of respect on both sides that they're sitting there waiting 3 days to watch us play and we give it back to them. I will say none of the Madden tournaments, none of the Fortnite tournaments, 2K tournaments are put on by the school. It's just students there who are like, hey, let's make this time.
Students to bring their Xbox.
Yeah, and it's fantastic to see. There was nothing better than walking out for practice and watching some dude clutch a dub in Fortnite, where you see the circle closes, 3 guys, all of us are sitting behind him, like I'm sure putting way too much pressure on him. And just watching them play. It is something that it's very refreshing to see. It kind of lightens the load off you and makes you think, hey, like as much as it lightens the load off you, also gives you that motivation to be like, hey, this dude's sitting here with a Wi-Fi hotspot that he's paying for, playing Fortnite, so we can make sure that he gets in the stadium. Not a front row seat, in the stadium.
Chris, before we get out of here, I want to know who's going to be the leading scorer from tonight's game against UConn and what the final score will be.
So leading scorer, it's easy. Actually, I don't think it's easy. I think that Hunter, they have another big guy. He's a big 7'3".
Donovan Clingon?
Yeah, monster big guy. So I think Hunter's going to have some problems with him. I don't think he's going to have a ton of problems. I think Hunter's still an 18 points a game guy. I think that Kevin McCullough leads the team in scoring as the team scorer, though. And I will say, answering all the questions, and this is kind of my aspect of the team this year, we're going to be one or two teams, and one team's more fun to watch, and one team has a better opportunity to win. Are we going to be like the 2019-2020 team where, hey, 60 to 67 against Tennessee, that's going to be all of our games. We're not going to score, but we're going to make sure you don't score. We're going to make sure, hey, we're going to get a 2 every time that we're down the court, but we're going to make sure that you don't get a 2 every other time. I think that's a real possibility. I think that everyone's looking for shooting and scoring, when in reality, we should be focused on the defensive end, because if teams can't score, we will win. Our best teams have been teams that don't allow people to score. 2022 is kind of a different time where we were able to score and also just go on freakishly long runs. But I think this team's going to be more like that. So, hey, saying that, I think it will be a low-scoring game. If we want to win this basketball game, I think 68 to 64 is probably about the range. I want to say like 63 to 58.
Is that your final answer? 63 to 58?
63-58, Kansas.
I'm going to go with Kevin McCullough being my leading scorer. I think he's going to have 24 points to go along with like 6 steals and like 7 rebounds. And as far as the total score, I think Kansas is going to win. And like you said, it's going to be a lower scoring, but I'll give us a little bit more than you did. I'm going to say 74 to 67 Hawks.
Hey, as long as we win, I don't care. I would imagine
We'll take it.
It's going to be a slugfest. I mean, Mitch, you know how these games go. If we're up like we are supposed to be up, how the students are up, how we think UConn's going to be up, I mean, this will just be – no one's going to be scoring. It's going to be so intense at the last 8 minutes of that game. It's going to be one of those games where you walk out with pit
100%.
stains and just like your heart's pounding. It's going to be a late game. You're going to get out of it at 10 o'clock, 12 o'clock, and you're going to be like, I want to go to bed. And it's like, no, I'm not going to bed. My heart rate's it's going through the roof. So I think it'll be a very, very fun, competitive slugfest this week or tonight. I don't know if it will be a slugfest in the terms of scoring, but it will be a competitive who wants it more junkyard dog matchup that the University of Kansas absolutely loves to be in.
Oh, 100%, Chris. Thanks for coming on for another episode of Rock Chalk Unplugged. We're pumped to watch the Hawks tonight. This has been great. Hopefully we can come out with that dub, and we'll have another podcast talking about how great we played against UConn.
Hell yeah, Rock Chalk.